Hey there! Before we start the podcast, I need you to put down that wavebird and listen up.
I need money.
For a tenth of what the price of that wireless GameCube controller costs,
That should be like $5 if you got it off Shop Goodwill.
you can support me here at the podcast of Two Consoles Too Late.
I need to buy more games.
Your support gets bonus content like additional episodes, Discord server access, typewriter manifestos, and personal shoutouts on the airwaves.
I actually have a typewriter.
Vote on Patreon polls to see what video game I talk about next.
Nothing on Atari 2600.
So go to patreon.com/2consoles2late because what the world needs is more stick it!
Hi, everybody.
Maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
And constant crises have shaken the entire world and have threatened in each case to bring on the gigantic conflict, which is today, unhappily, a fact.
9 programmable weapons buttons. Customizable feedback software. Don't just buy a new video game. Make one.
He doesn't have a PlayStation 5.
That's because he's Two Consoles Too Late.
Hello! Welcome to the Two Consoles Too Late podcast. I am the host, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. On this episode, we are diving into one of the greatest RPGs of all time, asterisk. We're talking about Chrono Trigger, a 30-year-old JRPG that might be returning. And since the last podcast, we had a lot of Nintendo Directs and a lot got announced, and I'm going to talk about not a lot of it, but some of it. And I picked up a Sega Dreamcast, and I want to talk a little bit about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. All right, so before I start the podcast, I have to do, of course, a stick it. And
Stick it!
Stick it this week is going to the people at estate sales. I just came from an estate sale. It was in my backyard in a neighborhood called Roland Park. And for those who don't know, Roland Park is one of the most affluent, luscious, greenest suburbs of Baltimore City. Baltimore City gets a lot of flack for being a dirty city. Well, the Roland Park is the complete opposite. You would never know that you're in Baltimore City when you're in Roland Park. Anyway, so I went to this estate sale. It took place over 2 days. Today is Sunday. Yesterday was Saturday. So I went Saturday, the big day. Started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and all the pickers get there early. And the pictures online were lots of guitars and amps and guitar pedals, so lots of pickers. And today was the day, everything's half off, get this crap out of my house day. So I went yesterday just to sort of, case out the joint. I knew there weren't going to be any video games. At least I figured. So as I'm walking through, I came across this case of 3.5-inch floppy disks. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I'm kind of going through these old diskettes, and I came across this video game called The Castle of Dr. Brain. And it was 4 discs to run this video game. I didn't check out any YouTube footage of The Castle of Dr. Brain, but I'd be very curious to check this out. So anyway, I passed on that. And but I picked up a tennis ball hopper on the half-off sale on Sunday. $10. Not bad. Oh, and I got some used tennis balls, so I got my money's worth. But anyway, my stick is going to these people at estate sales. I don't think people realize, how much time and effort it takes to put together one of these sales. Okay, it's like I guess it was about a staff of 3 people, and it looks like they had a company. I'm not going to plug them here, but they had to take the time to inventory the house, find what the prices on things were, and then put price tags on them, and then be there the day of the sale early, to open up and get ready and, manage, I would say, about 50 people trying to, get to the gold. And these people are rude. They push you out of the way. They're just there to get, the books, the what have yous, and they're they're just rude and they just rub me the wrong way. And you just don't hear a lot of thank yous at these things. People saying, hey, thank you for taking the time to do this. So I could get this guitar pedal, for like 10% off what it could be on eBay. So anyway, so to all you estate sale pickers who are rude, I just have to say,
Stick it!
and I'm going to enjoy my tennis ball hopper with the spring weather that we're having here in Baltimore. So in the past couple of weeks, we've gotten a couple Nintendo Directs, one for the original Switch and one, of course, for the upcoming Switch 2. From the Nintendo Direct for the original Switch, I was excited to see, of course, more footage of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It looks really good. You are on the planet Vuros. I don't know, that name just sort of rubbed me strangely, but it is what it is. And apparently Samus is going to be doing some time traveling, which is kind of relevant since I'm going to be talking about Chrono Trigger, and that game involves a lot of time travel. And as I was putting this episode together, I was thinking, what games out there, involve time travel? And so apparently Metroid Prime 4 is going to have some sort of time traveling element to it. And Samus has some new psychic abilities. I'll be interested to see how they work. I think, I guess the biggest takeaway for me from that Nintendo Direct was that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to be on the original Switch. That's what I was hoping for, and that is what is happening. It is getting its own, what they are calling Nintendo Switch 2 edition. A lot of games are getting their Nintendo Switch 2 editions with better graphics and what have you. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And also coming to the original Switch is Gradius Origins, coming out August 7th. And it's going to include the unreleased game Salamander 3. So for all the shoot-'em-up fans out there, exciting things are happening. So now there's an option to play the Gradius games on the Switch. And of course, at the end of that Direct, we also got a guest appearance by Shigeru Miyamoto. He's looking rather spry for his age. But then a week later, we got the Switch 2 Direct. I think that's the big one that everyone was waiting for. Once again, not a lot of... It didn't really blow me away. Especially in the podcastiverse, people were just super excited, and I think they've been waiting for this thing for some time, but nothing surprised me. Switch 2 is going to cost $500. I think it's $500 just for a standalone system, and then to get it bundled with the new Mario Kart World game is going to be like $550. So I know a certain 9-year-old that is looking forward to that. But then, so I just want to give this one some lip service. So Mario Kart World, as a standalone game, they announced it's going to be $80. And on the social medias, a lot of people were sort of poo-pooing that, saying, why is this game so expensive? Nintendo's never done this. Well, let's roll the clocks back to, the SNES, when a new game was like $70, all right? If you do the math, and $70 in today's money is something like, don't quote me, it's about like $150. So, the fact that a standalone game is $80 and to get poopy about it, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just, that's how much these things cost these days, and you're going to buy it. Don't tell me you're not going to buy it. I mean, it makes me laugh when I see people getting kind of crappy about, the prices of things. And don't get me wrong. I mean, times are tough right now. And especially, with the inflation and the price of groceries and everything. But within the video game realm, these things are expensive, but I don't see a lot of people, deciding, okay, either I eat and pay my rent or I buy the new Switch. If that's the case, hopefully your priorities are straight and you're paying your bills. And the other big reveal for me on the Switch 2 Direct was we are we got to see some Hollow Knight Silk Song. Yes, the sequel to Hollow Knight will be on Switch 2. I was really hoping that would be on Switch 1. I'm still kind of holding out. We don't have a release date for that game, and we don't have a release date for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. But we do know that Switch 2 is coming in June, and I just know of a certain 9-year-old that just can't wait to get his hands on that. So we'll see. But some interesting things coming from Nintendo in the last couple weeks. All right, let's talk about some Chrono Trigger. And before I start talking about Chrono Trigger, I got to put a little disclaimer on this. For the remainder of the episode, I'm going to say Chrono Trigger. I'm not sure whether it's Chrono Trigger or Chrono Trigger, but I'm saying Chrono Trigger, and that's where I'm at. If I'm wrong, send me a message that I was, and I will apologize accordingly. So anyway, there was a tweet back on March 11th that Chrono Trigger was 30 years old, and this is the tweet from Square Enix. Today marks the 30th anniversary of Chrono Trigger's release in 1995. This timeless masterpiece that is still talked about today was born out of a dream project by Yuji Horii of Dragon Quest, Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball, and Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy. To mark the 30th anniversary, we plan to launch various projects outside of the gaming world over the next year to express our gratitude to everyone who has played Chrono Trigger. For the latest information, check out Square Enix official X. And once again, that is a tweet coming from the company on March 11th. So I'm a little behind here, coming with this. I wanted to get this episode out earlier, but things being basically what happened was, all right, another disclaimer. I didn't really, I wanted to dunk on this game. I just wanted to, be kind of a jerk about it. And I decided, you know what? Don't. There's so much negativity right now in the world, and we know where it's coming from, that I don't think adding to the realm of being negative about a video game, especially now, is just a bad thing to do. Right? People play video games now to be like, man, things are getting worse. I'm going to go play a video game and sort of check out mentally and, because it's escapism. So I'm not going to dunk on Chrono Trigger. And I'm pulling a Big Lebowski. I had Adam Blank on the podcast like a month or so ago, and he kept using the term dunk. And I was like, oh, that's a great term. So I'm pulling a Big Lebowski, and that I'm stealing his phrase that, I don't want to poo-poo Chrono Trigger, but we'll see later that, my feelings on Chrono Trigger are vastly different from, I would say, a majority of the opinions of this game. All right, so let's start with the basics, just to get a baseline here. Chrono Trigger, what is it? Well, Chrono Trigger is a 1995 role-playing game for the Super Nintendo, if you did not know. It was developed by Square, but this was not just any Square game. This was the Dream Team project. And once again, those names again. Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, Yuji Horii, the mastermind behind Dragon Quest, and Akira Toriyama, who designed Dragon Ball and the Dragon Quest characters. So, the Dream Team came together and made this game, which is one of the things that makes this game so notable. But the game itself, you follow the silent protagonist of Chrono. And one day he goes to the Millennial Fair. He meets a princess. Actually, he bumps into her. And with the help of your tech geek inventor friend Luca, you accidentally invent time travel. That's it. I think that's kind of where you start, and it's a good start for the game, because after that, it goes all over the place. So before I start talking about Chrono Trigger, once again, I have to do a disclaimer. I did not beat Chrono Trigger. I'm guessing I got close to the end as far as I can tell from other walkthroughs and that I saw on the interwebs. I made it as far as the Ocean Palace, and my save state, all the save states have names, and I got as far as the save state that's called Lavos Beckons, and Lavos is the penultimate boss of Chrono Trigger. So I did not face off against Lavos, but I'm going to talk about my experience in a bit. But where Chrono Trigger really shines is these time traveling shenanigans. The story jumps across different eras, varying from prehistoric times to a dystopian future. And in these different times, you meet different characters. So in the prehistoric times, you're meeting Alia, the lovely cave girl. And in the dystopian future, you rescue Robo, the friendly robot. But that's what, once again, where Chrono Trigger made it so, why it was so special was this time traveling dynamic. For me, I have to say I didn't, in my limited gameplay, I don't feel that the only effects I saw of time travel were if you open like a case to get an item in the past, like it wouldn't be there in the future. Apparently that was something going on with Chrono Trigger that I didn't really, see too much of. I'm not sure if it was something that was missed on me, but so apparently, like, you could plant a tree in one era and then you come back later and there's a whole forest. I did not see that. But once again, I didn't get very far with Chrono Trigger, and that's me with RPGs. But the battle system for Chrono Trigger was ahead of its time. It used a version of the Final Fantasy Active Time battle system, but there was a bit of a twist. You could combine attacks between characters for double and triple quote-unquote tech moves. Your techniques were your special attacks. And once again, I didn't find the special attacks to be, I guess, mind-blowing or excited to have them per se. In fact, not having certain techniques stopped me from progressing in the game. Now, these dual and triple attacks, especially in boss fights, they saved my ass a bunch of times because these dual and triple attacks do like triple points in damage. So, I would say from like 500 to 1,000 hit points every attack. But a lot of these boss fights, their HP was in the thousands, like 7,000 or something ridiculous. So I got as far as the Ocean Palace, and I was facing off against the twin golems. And to defeat these twin golems, you just have to keep doing these elemental attacks, and elemental attacks like water, wind, fire, what have you. And I did not have the technique for Chrono known as Luminaire. I might be mispronouncing that. Basically, it was just, a spell that basically just looked like an atom bomb, and did mega damage to all the enemies that you were fighting. And as I faced off against the twin golems, I did not have Luminaire, and to grind to get Luminaire would have taken some time. So it was at that point, as I was playing the game, I really wanted to finish it. Because I don't like going into the podcast half-cocked. Because, I can't talk about the rest of the game. At least I can't talk about my experience of the rest of the game. Because there's 13 different endings to Chrono Trigger. And I would like to have seen at least one. But once again, I could not defeat the twin golem boss. But apparently, having 13 different endings was kind of unheard of. today, it's not surprising for a game to have different endings depending on how you played the game. Once again, I would like to have seen one of those endings. But I think if I had defeated the twin golems, that I think Chrono would have died. I did use walkthroughs, not heavily, but at certain points, especially boss fights, I diverted to the knowledge of Mr. H.C. Bailey on YouTube, who once again has wonderful, wonderful walkthroughs of RPGs, especially JRPGs, on YouTube. And once again, Mr. H.C. Bailey didn't decline to be on the podcast. I never get a response. It's just sort of, I think he's just kind of happy doing his thing. Anyway, so yes, I did not finish Chrono Trigger. I would have liked to have finished Chrono Trigger and perhaps seen one of these 13 endings, but I did not get that far. So often on this podcast, what happens is I'll start to play a game. I'm not a fan of the game, but I am a fan of the music. And Chrono Trigger is a prime example of this. I was not a fan of the game Chrono Trigger, being an RPG and having turn-based combat, something I've talked about time and time again, and I really don't want to talk about it anymore. But the music of Chrono Trigger is wonderful. And the backstory is, it was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, and apparently Mr. Mitsuda was unhappy with his pay, and he threatened to leave Square if he could not compose music. So they threw Mr. Mitsuda a bone and said, hey, do you want to do the soundtrack to Chrono Trigger? And he knocked it out of the park. And this is just one track from Chrono Trigger. It's called Fanfare. Oh, it's so good. So good. I mean, that hook, that doodle-doo. I don't know what the musical term for that is. An arpeggio, I don't know, but a scale. Whatever that is, man, that gets me every time. And as I was doing the podcast, I was thinking, you know what? I should start like a side podcast, talking just about the music and soundtrack of video games, because so many times I get more excited about the soundtrack than I do about the actual video game. And as I was doing my quote-unquote research for Chrono Trigger, I came across this wonderful video, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes. And then on this channel, the gentleman's name is Charles Cornell. And he sits down and he blindly plays the songs from Chrono Trigger. And you just see like the amazement, the astonishment, and he starts to play it as he hears it. I mean, he's a very accomplished musician. You have to see this video. But it was a wonderful video of this gentleman just hearing the music and trying to figure out how it was played and how it was composed, and just being in awe of the soundtrack. And I was definitely in awe of that soundtrack, to the point where there's one more track, and this is called Robo's theme. And once again, Robo is one of the characters in your party of Chrono Trigger that you meet in the dystopian future. Anyway, so he's got this theme that really sounded a lot like Rick Astley. I'm not sure if it's just me, but it just sounded like Rick Astley. So you're not getting Rickrolled, but this comes pretty damn close. Never gonna give you up, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna run around and hurt you. All right, that was a bit of a stretch, and I'm sorry that I sung Rick Astley to that song, but it just sounded a little Rick Astley to me. Not sure if it was just myself or others have felt this way. If you heard that and thought the same, drop me a comment so I don't feel like a complete fucking idiot. But anyway, the soundtrack of Chrono Trigger, absolutely wonderful. Mitsuda, once again, Mr. Mitsuda hit it out of the park. And definitely check out that video by Mr. Charles Cornell, blindly just sort of jamming along to the soundtrack of this game. But the legacy of Chrono Trigger lives on to this day, even 30 years later. Critics absolutely loved Chrono Trigger. And IGN, their score alone, it got 10 out of 10, which is kind of unheard of from IGN, apparently. And the user score is a 9.6. So, critics loved it, and fans absolutely worship Chrono Trigger. And Chrono Trigger, to this day, 30 years later, remains considered one of the best RPGs ever made. And it was re-released. It was re-released on the PlayStation as part of the Final Fantasy Chronicles collection. That was Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. And that updated version of Chrono Trigger, you got cutscenes. And in this modern era, you can even play Chrono Trigger on your phone. I could have been able to download Chrono Trigger for my phone for $2.99, but I do not like playing video games on my phone. So I went ahead and I downloaded the PlayStation version on my PS3 because I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison of Chrono Trigger for the SNES versus the PlayStation version. And the PlayStation version apparently is also very close to the Nintendo DS version. My biggest foible with the PlayStation version of Chrono Trigger, and I did not get very far, and this is sort of, I guess, splitting hairs, but the load times of going into a battle were really bad. Very noticeable. Serious, I don't know what, it was like a lag. There was a definitive pause from when the battle started and the actual combat began. And I thought, is this just me? Like, this seems kind of slow. But through the miracle of the YouTubes, I saw videos where this is one of the biggest problems of the PlayStation version was the load times of these battles. To the point where I was kind of astounded that the SNES version was kind of faster than the PlayStation version. But I think if you are going to play Chrono Trigger today, you should play the Super Nintendo version. I think that is the penultimate version. And that's what we're going to look at now on Auction Alert.
Auction alert.
So Chrono Trigger for the SNES is a bit of a collector's item. Price Chart has a loose copy for the SNES of Chrono Trigger at $228.75, and a complete in box copy is $800. But watch out for fakes. I believe once when I was with Goodwill, I came across a fake copy of Chrono Trigger, and it's fairly obvious when you come across a fake copy. But if you're not sure, head on over to the YouTubes, and there's videos showing how to discern a fake from the real one. This happens a lot with Earthbound, and we're gonna see a listing, I think, where that may have happened. But if you do not want to get a copy for the SNES, you can get a DS copy. For the DS, Chrono Trigger is $76.78 loose, and a complete in-box copy is $112.82. And if you want to go cheaper than that, the PlayStation version of Final Fantasy Chronicles, that is Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger, you can get that for $40. So currently, the listing, there are no listings on Shop Goodwill for Chrono Trigger. They are kind of few and far between. There's no DS versions on Shop Goodwill right now. There is a listing for a PS1, a Pisone, that includes a bunch of Final Fantasy games and, strangely enough, Dark Forces for the PlayStation. I talked about that on a previous episode. Check that out. But this Pisone is going off right now. It's at $67. It's got 9 bids. There's 9 hours left on that auction. And it includes a copy of Final Fantasy Chronicles. That's with Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. So that's the only current listing I found on Shop Goodwill. But I checked out the sold listings of Chrono Trigger. And these are from the last 90 days. A lot of DS copies. A complete in box DS copy went for 116. Another one went for 81. That was untested. But a sold copy of Chrono Trigger, one went for $267.66, and another one went for about the same, $267. A Super Famicom version sold for $131, and that was untested. But there was one listing of a whole lot of SNES games that included Chrono Trigger and Earthbound. And this auction ended back in January 29th. Came from Western and Northern Connecticut. And it sold for $1,280. Now, as I was looking at this sold listing, I got curious, and it looks like it was an authentic Chrono Trigger. I'm not sure if this was a fake or not. The Earthbound is definitely fake, but the Chrono Trigger, I think it was a fake as well. So once again, just watch out for those fakes when looking for a copy of Chrono Trigger, especially for the SNES. But if you want to play it, like I said, I played it on my SNES Classic. Chrono Trigger was not included on the SNES Classic. I had to download the ROM and use Hack Cheat in order to play it, which once again, I think the best way to play Chrono Trigger is on the SNES. But if you are a collector, I'm pretty sure that you know that a copy of Chrono Trigger is not cheap. But there are cheaper ways to obtain a copy of this game. So my final closing thoughts on Chrono Trigger. Once again, I did not want to poo-poo this game. I don't like the idea of, creating decisiveness, especially in today's climate of, this game is crap. I don't see the point of why everyone loves this game. I totally recognize why people enjoy this game. Graphically, it's wonderful. The soundtrack, personally, awesome. The story, very interesting. The characters are fun. There's lots of humor in the game. The graphics, it's just a classic SNES game that to this day stands up. 30 years. It's been 30 years since this game released, and it still continues to get the high praise that I think that it deserves. Once again, turn-based combat and magic attacks. For me, it's just a little outside of my realm of comfort. I'm more of an action RPG guy. But I highly recommend Chrono Trigger. As I was playing it, I did come across a video where somebody sort of updated the graphics a bit for Chrono Trigger, which was interesting. I don't think that Square would ever re-release Chrono Trigger with updated graphics in the way they did with like Final Fantasy VII. But if they did, I'm sure they would sell a lot of copies of it. So once again, I recommend Chrono Trigger. I think the best way to play it would be on the SNES, if that is possible. My experience with the PlayStation version, the cutscenes, I actually didn't get to any of the cutscenes, but you can see them online on the YouTubes. But the load times were very noticeable to the point where it was a bit of a distraction. So when it comes to playing Chrono Trigger, play on the SNES. And what were your thoughts on Chrono Trigger? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know. I think the majority of opinions on this game that it is one of the best RPGs out there, and it is timeless, even 30 years later. But I'll be curious to see what, from that tweet from Square Enix, what they're going to do with the Chrono Trigger property. But as updates become available, we'll get them up here on the podcast. But another thing that came out 30 years ago was the last console from Sega, the Sega Dreamcast. And if you listen to the last episode, I was bidding for a Sega Dreamcast. a Sega Sports Edition. It came with 2 controllers, a VMU, and the AV cable. The AV cable was actually the RF adapter. I'm looking to get another audio video option to play my Dreamcast, but I did pick it up, and I paid, according to eBay, I paid enough that I could flip this Dreamcast and make a little money off of it, but I don't want to do that. I actually want to keep this console. But I didn't have any games, and I was like, well, I'm going to need a game to test this. So I actually went to a yard sale the day of that I had to pick up the Dreamcast, and I went to a yard sale, and it's this one yard sale that happens every year, and this guy sells like toys, figurines, and video games. And after, I think it's been like 3 years of going to this guy's yard sales, I never pick up anything. But he actually had Dreamcast games, and he had Sega Sports NFL 2K. And I went on the social medias. I belong to a group on Facebook called The Dreamcasters. And I said, what's the first game I should play on the Dreamcast? And the answers were many, and I'm going to read a few here now. Once again, the answers were repetitive. Out of the 47 comments, a lot of people said play Shenmue. A lot of people said play Sonic Adventure. A lot of people said it's a Sega Sports Edition. You should play a sports game. Once again, I picked up NFL 2K, but apparently World Series Baseball is high on that list. Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. I got one comment for that. Skies of Arcadia, which is a popular game on the Dreamcast. That is not a cheap game, so that's not a game I wanted to start with. And another sports game that stood out was Virtual Tennis. So I might pick up that. But, so once again, I did pick up a copy of NFL 2K. I am not a sports game guy. I'm not a football guy. I have no idea I never played Madden, so I am totally out of my realm. I mean, with an RPG like Chrono Trigger, I kind of have an idea of what's going on. But with a sports game, especially a football game, I have no idea. But I would say that in the 10 or 15 minutes that I did play NFL 2K, you could see right away that the Dreamcast was definitely going after the PlayStation in the quality of sports games. I was impressed with the graphics themselves. When it actually came to playing the game and playing football, I had no idea of what to do, what the controls were. So I'm now sitting on a copy of NFL 2K that I'm probably never going to play. But I picked up a copy from the eBay's Draconius, The Cult of the Worm. That is going to be my first Dreamcast experience. I cannot wait. I've actually been... My fingers were getting very itchy. It arrived a couple days ago, and I wanted to start playing it immediately, but I felt like I still had some work to do on Chrono Trigger, which I was not able to finish. So I'm guessing that one of the next upcoming episodes of the Two Consoles Too Late podcast is going to be my experience of playing Draconius, The Cult of the Worm, an ARPG on the Sega Dreamcast. But once again, thank you for listening to the podcast. I have been the host, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. You can check me out on the interwebs. Just go to Google and type in Two Consoles Too Late, and there I will be. Another quick update here at the podcast. If you did not know, I will be at Thy Geekdom Con, May 24th, 2025, giving my panel on retro video gaming and podcasting. And that's in Oaks, PA. That's Memorial Day weekend. And after that convention, I'm probably going to roll up to my sister's in Jersey and drop in on her, but she doesn't know that yet. I'm going to get out of here and go watch a hockey game because apparently Alex Ovechkin is about to break Wayne Gretzky's record, so I'm going to see if that happens. Apparently tickets for that were going off at a pretty penny. And where it's happening is actually 10 minutes away from where they hold the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. So there you go. But as always, thank you for listening. I love you. Have a good one, and goodbye. Hello. Nope. Good start.